Warning. This is not the anime film Lizard the Bluebird. Rather, this is the review of the film Lizard the Bluebird. Lizard the Bluebird is available for purchase through Shaft Factory and 11 Arts, and is available for streaming via Amazon, YouTube, Pluto TV, Vudu, Google Play, and Apple TV. Please support the official release. Sincerely, the Dub Top Podcast. Alright, students. Let's begin practice for next week's recital. Brass section, are you ready? Would you ladies please stop chewing gum? Alright, percussions? Alright, turn off the K-pop. Woodwind. No, mayonnaise is not an instrument. Strings, for Pete's sakes, would you two go back into the hallway, not my music hall? Alright, are you ready? Good. Good. And a 1, and a 2, and a 3.
Attention band. Everybody, raise up your instruments. Can we get a C note for everybody? Hold on a second. Everybody match that note?
Me.
Oh, you suck. Okay, this is why we got bronze at competition, because every one of you guys can't be in pitch. Why was I saddled with this group? That's right, happy face, happy face. You know why? Because it's all about the music. It's all about the happiness of the music itself. Oh, hi everyone. Oh, I didn't see you all there. Anyways, hi everyone. Welcome to Dub Talk, the premier anime podcast focusing on English dubs for anime, old and new, good and bad, musical and non-musical, feature films and TV shows and everything in between. We are here today to celebrate, well, it's the start of summer for us in the real world, but also because we have a very special Patreon request episode today. Yes, we are going to honor the request of one Julia W. Hi, Julia. Julia's been an amazing supporter of the podcast for a very long time, and she had a very special request for this episode. You guys take a guess as to what it could be?
Musical. Is it time for that Show by Rock entire series retrospective that you've been building up to for the entirety of your Dub Talk career?
Andrew, you're making me sad because I would love to do that, and I'm sad that we're not doing that today, but that will come one day eventually.
Then I have no idea what we're covering today.
Fair enough. No, we are indeed covering a musical episode. In fact, we are covering something that is equally cute as Show by Rock. We're actually going to the world of Kyoto Animation, and in their foray of feature films. You may remember we covered A Silent Voice not too long ago, and we have covered some of their series before, but in this time we are going to cover a rarity. The rare film that is attached to a TV series, and only the movie got dubbed. Yeah, you probably guessed it by now. We're covering Liz and the Bluebird tonight.
So yeah. So actually, should we of the band introduce ourselves actually?
That's the next thing we're gonna do here. So I would like to give a standing ovation to the percussionist on the right. Please welcome Jet.
Hey there.
And then I have my star tuba player over here, Andrew.
I have a very good lung capacity, which is a fun way of saying I don't know when to shut the fuck up.
And I am the boner expert. No, I mean trombone expert. No a clue. Yeah, there could be some puns in here, but actually, I think we're gonna keep this mostly clean tonight because this is a very pure, happy-go-lucky, and very sometimes sad, because it's a melodrama kind of franchise. So, in case you're not familiar with it, Liz and the Bluebird is kind of a side episode of the series Sound Euphonium. So I gotta ask, Andrew, Jet, have you guys seen Sound Euphonium before?
It has been several years since I have watched Sound Euphonium, but I have seen both seasons 1 and 2 of Sound Euphonium.
Same here. It has been many years, but I have seen the Sound Euphonium.
Excellent. And you guys were big fans of the English dub of that TV series, right?
So about that. So one of the reasons I'm glad we're doing this, because this is not really a Summer at the Movies episode, even though that's fast approaching. Consider this like Summer at the Movies pre-game edition.
Indeed.
But one of the reasons I think I was particularly excited to do this episode is the saga of Sound Euphonium licensing is fascinating and frustrating, but also very fascinating. Because, so, there is a Japanese production company named Pony Canyon. They are a big production company, music licensor in Japan. They've been around for a number of years. Long time.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're familiar with something like Aniplex USA, Aniplex USA is basically the US branch for Aniplex, a major company very much as grand in scope and anime licensing and production as Pony Canyon. They made a big US branch, and they started up the ground running with like titles like Madoka Magica and Fate Zero. And the thing to at least note with Aniplex of America is they picked up big titles that were high in demand. Like,
they were heavily anticipated for an American.
Like
release.
when they came out, like when they started up Aniplex, they basically got hot titles that people really wanted and like really wanted to watch and all that.
And keep in mind that also in a time period where streaming wasn't exactly as reliable as it is today. Like right now, every release can reliably be streamed. Back in the day, releases for it were a little more spotty than they are now.
But yeah, like Aniplex of America, love them or hate them, were a success, and they were a big part of like making their own US branch, getting their titles, and had big established titles, did a decent job of marketing them, streaming them, dubbing them, releasing them, even if expensively, but at least putting them out and releasing them. So,
I mean, honestly, if you go up against Madoka Magica, anyone goes up against Madoka Magica, you're going to lose.
So, Pony Canyon decided to try doing what Aniplex did around the time frame of... God, what... I think one of the two first shows that they put out were Yuki Yuna is a Hero, and I do not remember what the other one was called. Denki Guy. The reason I want to mention this time frame is specifically I want to get... Okay, it was like late 2014, early 2015 was when Pony Canyon USA started out.
Right. And noticeably around the same time, the first season of Sound Euphonium, that came out in spring of 2015.
Yes, so it was around the time where they were really kind of starting to get the ball running and try out this whole licensing titles thing, releasing them, and... Chet, would you like to... So, how well did that work out for them? Like,
I mean, they are around anymore, so that's fairly self-explanatory, but, like, man, I remember when they had panels and, like, no one was listening in on them.
So,
they
when they started out, they basically put out two shows. One of them they commissioned a dub for, Yuki Yuna is Hero, and they released Denki Guy sub only. They grabbed a bunch of other titles too, but like probably the biggest license they acquired when they were still actively licensing titles was indeed Sound Euphonium Season 1 and Season 2.
Exactly. And the reason we bring this up is because to this day, there has not been a dub for seasons 1 or 2 of Sound Euphonium. And we'll get to what the show actually is, just in case there's 3 people out there who have no idea what the show is.
Yeah, when they had the option to dub it and put it out on a $80 Blu-ray with 4 fucking episodes, because that was their release strategy. Like $70, $80 Blu-rays with 4 episodes per volume.
Yeah, see, yeah. I was trying to recall, like, was like Yuki Unity the only thing they ever done? And like, oh no, they did. They did also dub Roka into Six Breeze.
Okay, no. Technically, they never dubbed that, actually. That was Crunchyroll and Anime Limited who dubbed that for the UK release, because their English release was sub-only. I mentioned Roka because Roka was kind of their other big title, and fun fact about Roka. They had a limited edition, which was those $80 separate parts, and a standard edition that was at least 20 or so bucks, 20 to 30 bucks cheaper. They canceled the standard edition Blu-rays because nobody was pre-ordering the limited edition one.
Oh man, I almost forgot about that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. I remember it because literally where the fuck else am I going to talk and bitch about Pony Canyon? Like talking about how frustrating it was that Euphonium was the big title that they could have actively commissioned a dub for, and they never did. Which...
Yeah, so this is a roundabout way of saying that this episode here, despite the fact that it's not really going to cover a dub for the TV show, because one doesn't exist, we are definitely going to group in all of our thoughts and reactions to the entire franchise, the licensing debacle, and this movie in particular, into this one dub.
Yeah, because by the time Liz and the Bluebird and I think the sequel film Oath's Finale were being put out, Pony Canyon USA was not actively putting out licenses for themselves. They kind of just became like a sub-licensing marketing company again, where other people would pick up titles they were involved in, and they didn't put them out to themselves. But
yeah, hey, on the bright side, we might get a TV series of eventually. I mean, we're getting a 3rd season. Someone's gonna pick that up.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because yes, not next year, and it's going to be scheduled for 2024 is when a season 3 of Sound Euphonium is scheduled to come out. And you're right, every other Kyo Annie production ever has been picked up and dubbed in the West. So you would hope that someone would pick this up, because Pony Canyon is probably not going to do it themselves, and we will finally get completion to this one franchise. It's so weird that we live in a time frame where Hyoka and Nichijou have English dubs, but this one sweet high school band show does not.
Yeah, and I think the more wild thing is we live in a time where it'd be like where you would think, wow, the idea of a company just like picking up a show in its 3rd season and only dubbing that 3rd season would be absurd, but it's like, no, by today's standards, that actually checks out.
that's a lot more reasonable than you'd think. It's still insane, but it is reasonable. There have been shows that have started their dubs with season 2 as recently as like a year ago. So
I don't know if I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I've ever heard of an instance where a 2 seasons already come out unlicensed, or undubbed rather, and only by the 3rd season did it begin to be, localized. And we can, I don't know if there's an example of that, but this show,
Kaguya-sama season 2.
Big of a demand. A season 2, sure, but I mean a 3rd season.
All right, that's another debate. I'm just going to mention.
I could probably think of something, but you'd have to give me a minute.
It would have to take a minute. I'm just going to mention one more thought experiment, and then we should actually talk about this. I'm sorry I'm going off about this. It's just, when else am I going to talk about this? So, the reason that kind of made Aniplex of America stand out and succeed is that they kind of got in at a time where they were picking up really hot titles that were in demand and people wanted. So, you want to know something kind of fucking freaky? If Pony Canyon USA got in the game, like, maybe a year earlier, they could have wound up with Attack on Titan.
Yep.
You're kidding.
Yeah, Pony Canyon are the producers, like the music producers of the Attack on Titan series.
I'm sorry, that's a terrifying concept.
So, I mean, I'm pretty sure they did. I'm pretty sure they did home video in Japan too. So like, yeah, they could have had it.
They could have.
Oh, what could have been?
But yeah, it's like if they had literally got in when like something as hot as that was in, they could have been a tour de force. But they kind of came out of the gate and sort of fumbled the ball until they're no longer really a concern.
You could say that they didn't get the gold in this competition.
No, they did not. They barely even got a bronze medal.
Luckily, who did get the gold is the licensor who did put out this movie. Liz and the Bluebird was picked up by 11 Arts, and they gave it a dub, and we're going to talk about that here. It's out on home video. You can get it in Walgreens if you're really looking. And yeah, it's nice that we do have a representation of this show somewhere on the home video and the dubbed market. And speaking of
this is a very you can find this probably pretty cheap. Like it's like maybe like $15-20 if you go to a store, or you get it for a sale online. This could be a nice cart topper to your Right Stuff order.
Exactly.
Before we move on, I do just want to say, like, I did suddenly recall a show that got dubbed in its third season.
Oh,
a
yeah?
show that rather legendarily got dubbed in its third season. Gintama.
Fuck!
Okay.
You're right!
That's another show where like it already had a big fan base, so it kind of warranted going back and relight.
Okay, but we're talking about like 200 episodes in they dubbed that show.
Yeah, that's even more crazy than this, because Sound Euphonium, both first and second season were only like 13 episodes apiece. That's not nearly as crazy as Gintama.
No, yeah, the Gintama saga is insane, because there's at least 4 separate dubs of that. This one only has 2.
Yeah, we're
not even talking about the other one.
So, yeah, we'll hold off on Gintama for another time. But for those who have been sitting in the rafters wondering, what is Sound Euphonium even about? So the basic premise of Sound Euphonium is that it follows a group of first-year high school students at Kitauji High School who have varying degrees of experience with concert bands. We're not talking about rock bands, we're not talking about jazz bands, we're not talking about synth bands. No, we're talking about traditional stage concert bands, brass, woodwinds, percussion section, and even a contrabass thrown in there. Specifically following, in that show, in the main show, is following the euphonium player, Kumiko Omai, who is the one who we follow along with her friends throughout the majority of the franchise. However, Liz and the Bluebird is, if you want to think of it in terms of anime releases, Liz and the Bluebird is kind of like an OVA, a feature-length OVA, because it focuses on 2 of the side characters from the main show. Liz and the Bluebird focuses on the lead oboe player, Mizore Yoriyazuka, and the lead clarinet player, Nozomi Kasaki. The reason it focuses on these 2 is because they have a bit of a good friendship relationship with each other, and they're in their 3rd year during the movie, so their emotions are a little high right now because they've been through the band program and they've performed with their classmates for a couple of years. They're wondering what they want to do when they graduate from college. But the main premise is that the oboe player, Mizore, is conflicted in her emotions about Nozomi, about how she wants to... Does she want to progress? Does she want to hold herself back so that she doesn't blow past Nozomi? And she ties all of this into a storybook called Liz and the Bluebird, hence the title, which is predominantly about a girl named Liz who befriends a girl who is actually the human incarnation of a bluebird. It's a fairy book story, so you take some of that into account. And predominantly is about learning to let someone go so that they can be free and be their own individual person, even if it's going to hurt you in the process.
Coincidentally enough, it is also a composed piece of music based off of the book in question that they are practicing and performing in the band.
That is also true. Which is fitting for the TV show because the title Sound Euphonium is also a piece of composed music in the universe of the show.
So yeah.
Yeah.
That is the premise, and it is... So before we even get into the dub, fuck, this movie looks unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm gonna be real. Like, I'm gonna be real. Like, this, like the dub, like as we'll get into later. Like the dub of this was pretty enjoyable, but like, this is not a movie you watch for the voice acting. Is that like the kind of acting you're here for is like character animation.
You are, yeah.
I want to be mad at you for saying that, Jet, but I can't because you're right.
Like, I feel like it kind of... I feel like people like to talk about, like, oh, yeah, KyoAni, cute girls, whatever. It's like, no. Nothing looks quite like this. And in a sort of sober way, in some regards, maybe nothing ever will look like this again.
Are you talking about the real world high school scenes or the storybook portion of it in terms of it looks like nothing else?
I am literally talking about the production of the team that worked on this. Specifically in the fact that, like, I don't know who the character designer of the anime series was, but the designs of this movie are unmistakable to me. This is the late, great... Please rest in peace to you, sir. Futoshi Nishia, where these characters look striking and distinct. Like, this feels like... How do I describe this? On a visual level, this is quite literally like a sequel to A Silent Voice. In that regards of, like, pure visual spectacle, and just every frame of painting is gorgeous in this film.
It really is. And I think a way to differentiate it from other beautiful looking anime films, because a lot of anime films look beautiful, but the way that this one stands out is that it's an adoration of everyday beauty. You can make well immaculated fight scenes or scenic settings of far off fantasy places look amazing. This movie's really crowning visual spectacle is that just the basic everyday movements of characters, the movements of clothing, the walk to school, the movement of the instruments, everything like that is rendered in a way that really makes you feel what the characters feel, which is how much they love being part of this band. They love the music, and they love the people that they get to perform with. And so we could just stop right here and say, okay, so that's the discussion for the movie. But no, there is a lot to talk about with the dub itself. So you guys okay to actually jump into talking about the dub for now?
Yes, I feel like we probably should have done this 5 minutes ago, but we got a little carried away.
No, let's preface this because, yes, everyone who's listening, we're not going to bash the animation. Let's try to focus in on the voice acting. Because like we said, we may not get a chance to talk about this franchise in voice acting for quite a bit. So, talking about Liz and the Bluebird, how we're going to do this is, because there's a bit of a smaller cast here, despite the TV show having a large cast, and this movie has a smaller main cast and even less lines. Like Jet and Andrew were saying, you watch this movie more for the character animation than the voice acting, so there's not going to be as many lines per character to talk about. So we're going to introduce all of the characters in this one section here, and from there, we will just cut loose on discussions for everything. Starting out with the ADR director. So this is an 11 Arts directed feature film.
No. That's not right.
Released by 11 Arts, but I'm sorry.
That is more correct, yes.
So who could we possibly get to be the ADR director for this? And I only ask that because the person we're going to talk about is a bit of a legend when it comes to directing recent anime feature films, especially ones that get a lot of attention. And that is Stephanie Sheh, who, if you've seen any movies that she's been the ADR director for, you may have seen A Silent Voice. It's another KyoAni produced one. You may have seen Promare. Or you may have even seen, outside of the world of Japanese animation, you may have seen Motherfuckers, or the French movie that we covered on a previous episode of this podcast.
I was wondering where you were going with that. I was like, okay, yeah. But yeah, But yeah, very much this is Stephanie and NYAV Post at the helm of this.
Yeah, wasn't good. I don't think anyone who's in the dub circle or as the cartoon cipher called it, dub tube, is going to think of Stephanie as uncoupled from the NYAV scene, because that is very much where.
Yo, are we in that tube?
We better be.
Yo.
I don't know.
Yo, you cipher dudes. Yo, it's just the two of our squads in the pool, basically. What up?
Well, we gotta expand it then. We need to start recruiting.
This is true because when there's so few people in the pool, when you fart in it, you're gonna be able to narrow it down a lot easier.
Moving on. So yeah, Stephanie's in the directing for this. So I'm also just gonna introduce all of the characters here. We will have words to say about all of these performers here, many of whom you've probably heard before. I'm going to start out with the instructors. Since this is a high school concert band, there's one main conductor, and he has two assistant adult instructors who help out different parts of the bands. And all three of these characters were in the TV show. This is the first time we're getting to hear them in English. The main instructor is Noboru Taki. He is the one right in front holding the baton. And he is assisted by percussion teacher Masahiro Hasashimoto. He's the more grizzled, unshaven, bit larger guy who's a little more laid back. And then there's also Satomi Niyayama, who is the woodwind teacher who helps out a lot. Noboru is voiced by Wayne Grayson. Masahiro is voiced by Mike Pollock. And Satomi is voiced by Ryan Bartley. Now, Andrew, Jet, when I mention the name Wayne Grayson, is there one particular role that comes to mind for you?
Hey, you!
And here I was gonna be quoted and say like, so how much for Bizzo from Slayers?
See, that's the one I thought of first, but apparently he's got like one more famous role.
Hey, you! What you doing there, pal?
There you go. No matter what happens, Yug, I want you to remember, I'll always remember the most important thing. And that's the
Mets, baby! Yes!
1986 can't happen again. Come on, baby. Let's go, Mets.
Oh, yeah, Mets! Yeah, yo, we got such a good season! Sensei, which movement are we gonna be starting with?
Well, luckily he does not slip into his Joey Wheeler voice. But yes, Wayne, on top of also being Fabrizzo, aka the best villain from the Slayers franchise, he's also Joey Wheeler in Yu-Gi-Oh! So yeah, he's been around for a while. Who's also been around for a while is Mike Pollock. He's like, as far back as like the oldest thing I could find that I knew of, he sang the theme song to Ultimate Muscle. Remember when that show aired on Fox?
I'm less surprised by that than I should be.
I was like, oh yeah, the other best 4Kids dub next to Shaman King.
Does anyone remember the Shaman Kings? I mean, it's not like there's a recent show or anything about it on airing right now, so I don't think anyone even remembers that show.
Man, that was a very interesting show. I wonder if there was a review on it on ANN somewhere.
But I mean, if it was probably handled by, nobody that we actually know. So certainly no one who we have high respect for.
Yeah, probably a scrub. Hey, Jet, how you doing, buddy?
Check out
I
that
know,
stuff. Sorry, got stuck in my throat there. Actually, what you may know Mike Pollock for more than anything else is he's probably best known as playing Dr. Eggman in a lot of the Sonic franchise.
He is so, like, iconic as Eggman that when they did the basically a poach starting fresh of the Sonic cast and started with, like, the LA cast, they kept Mike on as Eggman from the 4Kids cast, and he's still Eggman to this day.
That he is. Would you say he's better than Jim Carrey?
I mean, Jim Carrey's Eggman is fun, but like when I think of Eggman, I think of Mike Pollock.
I think most people do as well. So.
I would at least assume one takes their vaccines.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
it's also kind of the same deal with like Shadow. When I think of Shadow, I think of Jason Griffith, which is why I'm gonna be annoyed when they like cast like Keanu Reeves or something as Shadow in Sonic 3.
ow, God, Jet, that was like just a monkey's paw curl right there.
It's firm, but it's fair. Anyways,
Anyways, so we also have, like I said, we also have Ryan Bartley. She is probably best known as. Actually, she's been quite a few things. Most of them in more recent shows. Like she was Megumi in the second season of March Kim's In Like a Lion. If you've been watching Mob Psycho 100, you know her as Tsubomi Takane. Or if you've been following the debacle with the Neon Genesis Evangelion redub, you would have heard her as Rei Ayanami in the Netflix redub of the TV show.
Netflix, not Amazon Prime, not Funimation, not ADF, not.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, he was a very good Rihanna.
I'll take your word for it because I never got around to watching the Netflix redub of it.
I have problems with the script, but like voice acting wise, I think it is probably like the best of the existing dubs.
Fair enough. We'll hold that for another episode. That's going to be a day-long recording episode. Guarantee you that. So, on top of the teachers, we also have we have multiple students. I'm going to start out with 4 of them who have very few lines and aren't really prominent in this movie, but we have to talk about them because they are the main 4 of the main TV show.
They're the squad.
Yeah, I'm going to rattle them off here really quickly. The first one is the euphonium player and the one with the chocolate ice cream hair, Kumiko Uamai. We have her friend, the tuba player, Hazuki Kato. We have the best character, Sapphire Midori Kawashima, who plays the contrabass and it constantly has bandages on her fingers. And then we have the best trumpet player in the whole group, Reina Kosaka. I'm going to hold off a little bit on talking about Kumiko's voice actress a little bit because she also plays other characters in this movie as well. But for the reference, it is Courtney Shaw. But I will talk a little bit more about what she's done in a minute.
Okay.
Hazuki, the tuba player, is voiced by Allison Leigh Rosenfeld. Sapphire Midori is voiced by Cassandra Morris. And Reina is voiced by Christina Valenzuela. Let's see, where have I heard Allison before? Well, if you've been following the Pokemon franchise more recently, you may have heard Allison as Bonnie in Pokemon XY, XYZ, and the films that were attached to that particular season. If you saw Promare, you heard Allison as Aina. Or if you saw another film that we covered for this podcast, and was also directed by, it was an NYAV film, Oko's Inn, Allison played the character of Sakiko Seki. There's a lot of S's in that word. Now, Cassandra Morris, who plays Midori, let's see. Well, I suppose I should probably throw the Love Live fans a bone here and say, yes, Cassandra is in the Love Live franchise as Tsubasa Kira. She's also Saki in Durarara. But I'm going to assume that Andrew and Jet, you know your video games. What is Cassandra Morris known the most for in the nerd sphere?
Looking cool, Joker!
I was gonna say you're all scrubs. You should know her most iconic role. The best girl, Tonico from Osamatsu.
Well,
and I'm not just saying that because Tonico is sitting behind me with a chainsaw right now.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But yes, no, I'd say as far as like the video game roles, like one of her most iconic ones is definitely Morgana from Persona 5.
Persona everything that I could find. So yeah, that's where Cassandra's in here, and I'm glad we get to hear a little bit in this movie. I'm also really glad we get to hear Christina, who plays in the, not the original dub, but the Viz redub of Sailor Moon. Christina plays Sailor Mars. She's also Hawk in the 7 Deadly Sins franchise. And she plays Homura in Madoka Magica. It's another show that we just brought up a little bit a while ago. So yeah, that's those 4 characters. We've also got a couple of other students. Now, again, this is a wide band cast, but we're going to focus on 3 other students in particular here. we're going to focus on the president, the vice president, and one other oboe player. So we have Yuko Yoshikawa. You see her character design. You recognize her because she's the only character who has a ribbon in her hair. She has like this yellow ribbon that makes her like 10 feet taller. And she was voted as the new president because this is her final year in the band.
I remember her being kind of... I remember her very much being kind of a brat in the original show, but it's a good thing that she has her teasing gay significant other to keep her in line, who we're also going to talk about.
Yeah, speaking of that teasing gay significant other, we're going to talk about Natsuki Nakakawa, who is also a euphonium player, and despite the fact that she didn't even make the competition group through the auditions in the main TV show, she got voted to be vice president when all the seniors graduated. I'm assuming only so that the original vice president, having to refill the role, wanted to continue to bug Yuko for another whole year. That's the only reason she voted for Natsuki.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly it. It's just like somebody's got to keep that chicken in her place.
That she did. So yeah, their dynamic is interesting, and we'll talk about them in a bit. We're also going to talk about a new character who's not in the main TV show, Ririka Kenzaki. She is a first year. She's also an oboe player, and considering the fact that we mentioned that the main character of this movie is also an oboe player, they have some main interactions which help develop out the main characters. So, of those three, let's see, Yuko is voiced by Megan Harvey. Natsuki is voiced by Sarah Ann Williams. And Ririka is voiced by Xanthi Wynn. So, Megan Harvey is also one who's been around for quite a while. It's interesting to note in looking through her filmography that the thing you may have seen her in, because this got a television broadcast, was she was Kana in Fulikuli Alternative. But she's been around for quite a while as well. She was Hisami in Read or Die, the TV show. Not the OVA, but the TV series. And she... attached to this franchise, I feel like I shouldn't judge it, though, because I haven't seen it, but it's got a reputation. Andrew Jett, have you heard of Ikitosen before?
I have? Okay.
Yes, I am aware of the Ikitosens. I have not watched it.
Okay, good. You're in my same camp too. And that Ikitosen is a girls fighting each other and their clothes strip off in the process show, and it got multiple seasons, multiple OVAs, still going strong over there. It's really baffling to me.
Also, apparently multiple dubs, which that's a whole other dub talk lecture for another day.
Yeah, not multiple dubs for the same series, but it's because it's been around a long time. It's been passed around between different studios. A couple of anime have had that legacy as well, where different studios have picked it up to dub it. But for seasons 3 and 4, Megan played the character of Koimei. I think it's seasons 3 and 4. So
I'm just gonna nod and wave like I know exactly what seasons those are and what that character does.
Excellent. Well, that's most academics, just nodding and smiling and pretending you know what you're talking about.
Can confirm.
Someone who has also been around for quite a while is Sarah Ann Williams. Bring it back to Madoka Magica. She played Sayaka Miki in that show. As Megan liked to refer to it, she carried that dub on her back. She's also she's Lisbeth in the Sword Art Online franchise. And on the flip side of things, when it comes to virtual reality shows, she was also Unico in Excel World. So let's see. Then we got Xanthi Wynn we get to talk about. Yay! I know Xanthi Wynn as playing Menma in Anohana. You may know her as the platelets in Cells at Work. Andrew, Jet, do you know Xanthi Wynn from anything else around the worldwide internets?
The worldwide internets?
I'm trying to be very old here.
Oh, come on, you're not that old. If we're going back to Persona, she is Haru Okumura in Persona 5.
Yeah, that would be the big one.
And yeah, if you want to bring this back to movies, I would say that she is the wonderful Makia in Makia, the flower we saw that day. No.
Glad you brought-
When the promised flower blooms. I misconstrued the other flower-based Mario Kata thing with the other Mario Kata thing, which she was the lead in both!
Yes, you was.
She's also, you know, extremely good girl, Alika from Hunter x Hunter.
Ah, yes, Alika is great.
That's what's great is that I knew if I asked you guys, you would give me two separate answers because she's got performances in different franchises for different subcultures. So that's why I'm so glad we get to talk about her in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Now to wrap this up for who's in this movie here, we got to talk about the main high school students, and we got to talk about the titular Liz and the Bluebird themselves. So playing our main two high school girls. Mizori Yorizuka is voiced by Lori Hims. And again, she's the lead oboe player. She was actually the only oboe player in the main TV series. And she's actually very good at it. She's not just the lead due to there not being anybody else. She's actually very good at it. And she was only brought into the band, like she wasn't even interested in playing an instrument until she was recommended by Nozomi Kasaki, who is voiced by Stephanie Sheh. So their two relationships is really dependent on one supporting the other, but maybe they're both supporting each other. We'll talk about that in a bit. But like we were saying, their story in this movie is kind of paralleled by this children's book called Liz and the Bluebird. And Liz, because they animate the storybook segments, they take the story of Liz and the Bluebird and they animate it in tandem with the main story going on. Liz is both Liz and the Bluebird are voiced by Courtney Shaw. I mentioned her a little while ago as voicing also Kumiko for one line, but she really gets to shine in this titular role here. So, what has Courtney Shaw been in before? Well, she doesn't have as long of a cast credits list as some of the other actors we talked about. Bringing it back to Show by Rock, though, since you brought that up, Andrew. Courtney played Balt in Show by Rock Stars. She's also Manatsu in Maisetsu opening act. And she's Lisa in the Mazinger Z Infinity movie.
Cool.
Now, also playing the two main characters, like we were saying, Lori Hims, who plays Mizori, she plays Lily in the Pokemon Sun and Moon franchise. So
cool.
Pokemon connection there. She also played Laetitia in Lupin the Third, the First, which I still need to see because I've heard it's really good, and I'm still working my way through all the Lupin the Third stuff this year. Or maybe if you saw the movie Fireworks, you may have heard her as Miura Sensei. But then we gotta wrap this all up with the cast list for Stephanie Sheh, who voices the clarinet player Nozomi Kasaki. Stephanie Sheh has been in everything. She is been around for a long time. She is Hinata in Naruto. She is Mitsuha in the Your Name movie. She's Yui in another K-On! Series, K-On! She's in basically everything there. I'm only saying this with such exasperation because I feel like mentioning the cast list for Stephanie Sheh and what she's done before is redundant, because if you know your dubbed actors, you know Stephanie Sheh, and I don't need to tell you that she's been in a lot of stuff.
Would you like to take a breath there? Because you have indeed been soloing for quite a while there. You might need to take a breather, take a drink, clean out your spit tank.
No, that's the good thing about being a seasoned member of a concert band is you have quite a lung capacity.
Well played, sir. Well played.
I could spend this talking about my own connection to the show and the parallels of my own life, but that's not important right now. I want to talk about this cast list here. So shall we take it away, boys?
It feels ironic to say that, like, the characters I have the least to say anything about are the main squad from Sound Euphonium.
Yeah, I have less to say about the performances and more to say about, like, the fact that these were probably, like, the specific characters who got replaced in, like, the VSI dub for the other movie.
Which is a bummer, because some of them are solid choices. Like, Christina V and Cassandra Morris are bang-up choices for both Reina and Sapphire.
Those two choices make sense. I would definitely have been cool with those two playing those characters in, like, the TV series. Mm-hmm. The one casting choice that was a little odd was, ironically, probably Courtney Shaw is, like, Kimiko.
Which, that's not as much her fault in that there is no time to spend with it.
No.
There's no time to spend with it, and, like, if I'm being honest, this is not a criticism of the dub enemies, it's just kind of, like, the reality of things.
Yeah.
It feels like she was casting that character just because, like, they needed to fill a line.
Which is ironic that the character they needed to fill the line in was the main character of Sound Euphonium, which is very funny.
Because I didn't look at, like, they casted as those characters in the other dub, and, like, I know the other dub Kimiko is recommended, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that is like
that is a solid choice for her.
Yeah, that is a solid choice. Like, that is definitely who I would probably cast if I were, like, casting for the show.
It's just this is the weird reality of what happens when you don't have a locked down cast, in that there's no real loyalty to keeping people consistent.
Not when there's only one line. Kimiko literally gets one line.
She gets one line, so it's like I'm not even faulting that. It's just in that one I didn't mind, but it's like I like Reina, like what we heard of Christina V as Reina. I was like, well, that is a solid choice.
Yeah, that could have worked.
That really works.
Yeah, because Reina's persona of being, you know, very cool, collected, but being very passionate about the band itself definitely lends itself to Christina's. I think I wrote it down as that she kind of played it hushed. You know, Reina's got a bit of a hushed voice, but it's a really confident hushed voice.
And Reina is a very confident but hushed character.
She is.
Which, also, I find it very funny. When I bought this, I blind bought this movie, by the way. I didn't know my set came with art cards. It had 3 art cards. It had the main pairs, which was Mizure Nozomi. It was Natsuki and her Yuko. Natsuki and her better bitchy half. And then it had Kumiko and Reina, which is very funny because they don't have that much going on. But so I'll say this as I'm going back and forth on this, it's just, man, they look like different characters from different shows. Character design is wild.
You mean like comparing the designs in this movie to the show, or the characters? Oh, okay. You're right.
It's not that deep. It's literally just I have Anime Planet, where it's like I pulled up Mizure's picture from the TV show. I'm like, wow, that doesn't even look like the same person.
I know the TV show had, like, definitely a lot, like, thicker line work with the character designs, if I'm remembering right.
No, you're right. It was less ethereal and more.
Like, I don't want it to sound like I think the character designs in the show are bad. No, not at all. They're extremely striking and distinct in their own right. It's just, this is an equally distinct and striking design in a completely different sense by a designer I think I'm more attached to in that sense. Though we're not here talking about that. Christina's being very good. Cassandra Lee Morris is very cute. Talking about her, Alison Lee.
God, she's the best character. She's the best character in the whole franchise, and she doesn't get nearly enough focus.
Tuba-chan.
She's got like I love how Cassandra gives her like almost like a little rasp in when she speaks to match her precariousness. That whole sequence where she's talking to Hazuki about how the when you match someone what they're saying, you know, then you're like, you owe them ice cream, and it's like she's so committed to it as well.
It's basically just a fancy way of doing the jinx.
Exactly.
which I liked how that came around at the end of the movie, which that was a nice little parallel to that. And Allison Rosenfeld's also pretty good as Hasuki, and Courtney we'll talk about later.
We will. She delivered that one line perfectly well for if you didn't know that in the main franchise that these four were the main focus and they were in all of the opening and ending sequences, you wouldn't think much. You would just think, oh, these are some pleasantly nice side characters.
Yeah, it's kind of that level of, like, if you didn't know better, you'd be like, oh, okay, these seem like sweet young lads. And then it's like, oh, they're being coy about the fact that these are the side players in this flick.
Yeah.
Which I thought was actually pretty interesting in that regard. As far as the teachers, which...
Yeah.
Most of them are also kind of side players, with the exception of one.
I thought that Mike Pollock and Ryan Bartley did a good job, but like the center of these three is definitely Wayne Grayson, particularly because, like, again, going off of my like vague memory of the TV series, I remember the instructor being kind of like very casually sassy, and so if I were to imagine that in English, like Wayne Grayson's performance is like the exact energy I would have wanted out of that guy.
Because, yeah, I get the vibe that he's not, like, a dick, but he is very much a little... He's younger and a little bit snarkier, yeah. I think I remember that, too. I don't even know who played him in the other... Oh, wow, yeah, that's a good pick. Okay, yeah, so here's the other fun thing about this episode, because I don't think we're gonna get a OPS finale episode off the ground anytime soon, so this is just kind of me learning who's in the other dub at the same time too. We're like, yeah, fucking Robbie David's a good pick for this guy too.
Have you seen their movie yet?
No, I have not.
Okay.
I don't know shit about it. You're gonna have to report back on us and tell us how that turns out.
Well, I mean, you can watch it too on your own time.
I can.
I mean, I don't disagree with you that Wayne does capture some of the more sassy parts of Noboru's persona, but he was also a bit more intimidating in the TV series. Like, for context, he was taking a band that had a big shakeup in the previous year due to really lack of interest by the performers and about half of the band quitting that year, coming in and kind of whipping everyone back into shape, and spoilers, they end up going pretty far as a competing band. I don't really get that from Wayne's persona here. It's it's a lot more chill. It's very confident, but it's not as intimidating, I guess is what I wanted. So he takes like the half of the performance that needed to be a confident instructor, not so much the part that's trying to instill the importance to the students about how hard it is to not mess up.
No, I gotcha. But yeah, this is I think Wayne does a decent job being the kind of plucky but assertive young teacher. And I think Mike Pollock does a good job playing the dude who wears the fucking Hawaiian vest. I like that dude, but he doesn't have much doing this.
Now, see, I'm not sure if this was intentional, but did you guys get a sense that Mike was intentionally playing an unpolished performance for this character?
Not really.
Not really.
Okay.
I don't quite see where you're getting at with that.
I mean, it's the character's design is unshaven. He's a little larger.
Oh, he's kind of a more lax dude. If you're talking about the performance, is a little more lax. I'd say lax. Unpolished sounds almost derogatory.
Well, I know it does sound that way, and I especially wrote in my notes that I mean unpolished as a positive point, because whereas Wayne, emphasizes the words and speaks with the clarity of a seasoned theatrical professional, like Mike was almost directed to speak a little more vernacular, like almost the way that we're speaking right now, where we're not, rehearsing lines that have been written down in a script. We're just talking more natural. Like, I feel like that was a very intentional choice on Stephanie's directing part when giving Mike this character to voice.
Okay, I can see where you're going with that.
But yeah,
Actually,
it's like these two, they don't have too much going on. I think Niyama is actually the one who's got a lot more going on than this film as an active participant. In fact, that she is the one who actively pushes Mizore to pursue, like, music college, which was something she was kind of holding herself back on and kind of being a lot more wishy-washy about whether she wanted to be more serious at the behest of leaving somebody she cares about behind. And her teacher was kind of trying to encourage her, as well as to understand the big solo part in the third movement of Liz and the Bluebird, which is hilariously called The Things I Do for Love. Like, okay, the things we do for love. All I could hear was fucking Courage, the cowardly dog, just saying to himself, the things I do for love.
Oh, that's why you referenced that gif in the chat. Okay.
Yes, that's what the movement was called, the things we do for love.
I must have missed that. The on-screen text, I must have missed that because I didn't catch that. I was like, why are you referencing this?
It was,
But
they were very overt about that, come on.
Well, I mean, the entire thing was very overt in the affection between Mizore and Nozomi, to the point that
We'll get to that, but
the hug, man, the hug.
I'll get to that.
Okay.
But yeah, I wanted to at least give props to this character, as well as Ryan being a nice, supportive character for Mizore, but also like doing her best to be a good teacher and try to push her when she herself isn't pushing herself. And I think Ryan does a good job sounding very professional and supportive, and also kind of like a nice lady who's doing her best.
Now, I wanted to ask you guys, because Ryan Bartley voices the only adult female in the whole cast. The rest are high school female characters. Did you get the sense that she conveyed a sense of, I'm an older character compared to all the other high school aged female characters?
Quite convincingly, yes.
Okay. I also felt that way too. I was like, I wanted to make sure that it was actually the performance that conveyed that, and not just I'm looking at the character design and I can tell that this is a more advanced character rather than all the other high school characters. But yeah, I do think that Ryan's voice actually does make that come across for the few lines that she has.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, these guys cover the teaching side of things. We're going to talk about the president and vice president who, how did you voice it, Andrew? The teasing gay
how do I describe it? The brat and her top.
It doesn't have to be lesbian terminology, although it's totally true.
Okay.
Look. Nope, you know what? I'm just going to say that for when we talk about the main group.
Look.
I mean,
They're just scouts being pals,
Motherfucker. Look. There is a conversation to have about that, but I like the snarky bitches.
Well, I'm glad you like them.
So yeah, I actually, interestingly enough, I think I'm just going to start with I'm probably going to start with Sarah Ann Williams as Natsuki, because it's just Sarah Ann Williams being very good, very supportive friend, but also having a little bit of sass and tease to her. Like Sarah's voice has this perfect level of, like, how do I describe this? Yeah, you ever talk to somebody where it's like you could just kind of hear in their voice that, like, they sound like when they are talking that they are doing their best to hide a shit-eating grin? Like, there's just that level of, like, that level of, like, snark and, like, that is Sarah specifically in a lot of her roles. I'd say this is her doing that, but, like, holding back her power level in regards to how much of a shit-eating grin she's got with her gal pal.
it certainly lends in this particular movie. It lends itself to being a little more subdued because this is a less funny movie than the tone of the TV series.
I wouldn't even
So
say it's less funny. I'd say it's less eccentric and more low key.
I mean, okay. I mean, the entire franchise in general is like super low key. This is just more. This is mildly more dramatic by its standards, which isn't saying that much. But it's like a little more serious.
I would definitely say I think like the framing of it is much more like a how do I describe this? I would say if like Sound Euphonium is a much more composed piece, if it was like a much more like composed in a studio or something like that, I would definitely say Liz and the Bluebird is a lot more like a group kind of strumming together, just freestyling it until they find a sound that works together.
they're jamming.
Jamming. I would say Sound Euphonium is like something that is a lot more like heavily produced, like a lot gone through a lot of different passes and drafts and stuff. And Liz and the Bluebird seems like a lot more of a freestyle jam.
I'll agree with that in the way that it's structured timeline wise. I was almost a little mad in the middle of it because we go from I would like to invite my underling to join us for swimming, and then it's like the very next scene. It's now we're recapping that trip we made. We didn't even get like a montage to kind of show it happened. We just see after days afterwards.
It felt like they were like really committed to just keeping everything within the context of the school and like nowhere else.
Yeah, which it still worked, but I think that's at least a fair criticism. So, yeah, I'd say that. Do you guys have any thoughts on Sarah in particular?
I thought she sounded fine. It's just kind of like I don't have a whole ton to say about the character in this movie.
I mean, yeah,
Okay.
she doesn't do. I mean, she is significant in acting as a balancing act to Yuko. And what I do like about Sarah is that I'm going to be a little mean on some of the performances coming up here, but I had no problems with Sarah's because everyone else seems to have been directed to kind of keep that low-key performance in the way they're acted, because that's just their characters are written that way. But because Sarah has a performance that requires more snark and I almost want to compare it to like Umaru-chan kind of persona. She gets to modulate a lot more. She gets to play with that range of emotions, but she's not just being a teasing character. She's supportive as well. When her oboe player doesn't want to play basketball, Natsuki's going to take one for the team and play another round for her.
She also is basically kind of like the person Nozomi talks to whenever she's having qualms with the relationship.
Right, and we will talk about that relationship in a bit. So it's nice when a character whose line count isn't very high, like Natsuki's in this movie, gets to still stand out just because Sarah's just really good at performing.
Actually, if we're going to talk about standing out, though, I actually wanted to give praise to Yuko in this movie, actually, who I think
There we go.
had a very interesting active part of this film in particular. Because I remember in the series she was kind of the bratty Kohai that was mad at Reina for taking away the spotlight from her senpai.
Correct. In the TV series, Reina is given the role of the solo, which is it's a very nice solo. I highly recommend listening to the performance in it itself. But yeah, because it's very unfortunate when when a freshman gets the solo performance and the senior who's been waiting for their chance to shine doesn't get it.
It's that whole rough scenario of, do you give it to them because this is their last chance, or do you give it to the person who's actually the best for the job? And it's that weird fine line you have to walk sometimes about how you approach that, and they went with who was effectively the better player for the part. and that kind of broke Yuko a little bit. But
it stands out because that's the kind of relationship between senpai and kohei that we don't really have in American school system. I was in concert band, and I had seniors and I had underlings in my senior year, and I never really felt like there was the same level of maybe not admiration, but the same level that Yuko had for her senpai as we see in the TV series. So
I'm sorry,
my interesting part that
my
favorites to see that get translated into English.
My favorites. This is one of those things that's very silly to me. I love sports anime.
So what do you think of Megan's actual performance of Yuko in this movie?
Sorry, hang on. I'm derailing for a second because we're talking about the whole senpai kohai thing. I'm remembering one of my favorite silly things is a sports anime when, like... One of my favorite things is, like, a sports anime. When in a sports anime, they straight up just, like... They remember the senpai that has graduated, and when they remember the senpai that has graduated, it's almost like they are dead. I remember that one. I remember seeing that one panel from Haikyuu, which is like, I'm thinking of if only you could see me now, senpai, and he's looking at him in the fucking clouds like he's Mufasa, and it's like, dude, he just fucking graduated. He's like, you can call him. You can call him and see how he's doing, but the framing of, like, this is the last time I'll get to play with my senpai. After this, we'll never get to play together again. He's gone. Yeah. I'll never see him again. Like, bro, he's doing tests right now. He's, like, going to mixers. He's probably, like, banging somebody while you're thinking about him.
Oh,
chill.
Absolutely.
And that's one of my favorite little senpai kohai things. It's just, they always play it very melodramatically in sports anime, and it's just very silly and very funny to me.
Oh, that's a good question. Is Sound Euphonium a sports anime?
Oh my god, are you fucking yes, doing this right now?
It's gotta be. Like, there's competitions, there's people get cut from it, it's melodrama, there's romance involved. How is it
gay.
Not a sports anime? It's gay, yes, it's gotta be.
Sports animes are inherently gay or metrosex. Like, everything. Sports is the most, like, aggressive. Everybody likes to pretend it's not gay. It's pretty gay. It's a little gay.
But that's fine. And that's not a bad thing, by the way. Happy Pride Month.
Happy Pride Month, yeah.
Anyway, so we got way off topic there.
We got way off topic there. we were talking about the senpai kohai thing, and I always think about how it's very funny. So, what I actually wanted to talk about was Yuko Yoshikawa in this movie, played by Megan Harvey, which I actually think she does a pretty solid job playing the sort of stern but caring supporting figure that's also not afraid to speak out her mind. Which I think was the part that kind of surprised me the most about this movie, because I remember Yuko was kind of a bit more of the bratty kid that was mad that, like, her senpai was getting scorned or something, and then when she is the senpai, she's got to be the one to put all that aside from her. She's got to watch after the underlings, and she's got to stick with her friends that are still there, which I think probably the part that stood the most out to me about this movie was Yuko straight up lashing out at Nozomi.
Mm-hmm.
Which was her basically telling her, did you tell any of what you have told us about the fact that you don't have the heart to commit to music college and don't even know if you want to do this professionally? You haven't told that to her. Somebody who has their heart on you to stay with you through thick and thin, and you fucking manipulated her and like fucking with her feelings. Just like that. That's bullshit, dude.
I mean, which is why Yuko is needed for here, because no one else is going to be sincere enough to...
No, I agree. I think that's something I kind of understood a lot more about her character now, because I just kind of remembered her being bratty, but it's like, no. she is not afraid to speak her mind and call bullshit out. And in that moment, she's like, you are being extremely unfair to your best friend, somebody who cares about you more than you care about yourself, and you are being so disingenuous with her, and that makes me sick. I'm like, wow.
So you guys say that Megan's performance of that was exactly where it needed to be for this movie?
I would absolutely say that she did a good job conveying that level of, like, frustration and, like, irateness to her, and I think Megan absolutely conveyed that quite well. Like, it was one of those things where it's like, I didn't remember much about. That's why I like side stories like this, where it kind of gives me a chance to see some of these side characters I liked or didn't have too many thoughts on, and see them in a whole new light. And I got a lot more respect for the little bunny ribbon girl. I was not expecting that, so that was a fun thing to walk away from this movie. And I would definitely say Megan Taylor Harvey absolutely did a great job as Yuko.
All right, point. Jet, counterpoint.
Yeah, I don't really have too much to add there. I thought Megan Harvey did a good job there, kind of being like, the person who kind of needed to be a little more sharp-tongued than everyone else, and definitely calling people out where needed. And I thought Megan did a really good job there.
Now, see, what I wanted to ask about was, I also agree. The performance was very good. Is that Yuko in the Japanese embodies a vocal tick that we don't necessarily have in English voice acting, and that is of the younger, bratty, more childlike character. And I'm glad that what they did with this, like how they resolved that, is they didn't take, I suppose, an actress with a regular pitch and tell her to pitch it up an octave to make her sound younger and brattier. They made her sound just younger by her natural speaking voice. Like, Megan's delivery is youthful, and it kind of matches with the character design, because I'm sorry, but I've never seen an adult with bunny rabbit ribbon in their hair before. But also just by the natural vocal inflections. And I'm kind of glad they did that, because I don't think I have not heard Megan in anything before. So it was a newer voice that carried the archetype that is really hard to fill in American voice acting.
Oh, she's Sophia in Strikers.
You say that like I've seen it.
Wasn't she the lead in? Was he the lead in like one of the new Fully Coolies?
That's what he said. Alternative. No, I was just remarking because she's the little android girl in P5 Strikers.
I will take your word for it.
You and your fucking lack of video games, SMH my head.
How do you have time for cartoons and video games and a life? How do you do it?
See, that's my secret, Cap. I don't.
I have time for two of those three things.
It's like the triangle. You can have only two.
You can have video games, cartoons, and a life, but you can't two of the three, but you can't have all of them.
One could argue if there's a life. I think that's the thing about me and Steph just doing this whole thing. It's like every other week we'll be like, okay, we gotta go out and do something, just to mix it up a little. But yeah, anyways.
you and your hetero relationship and your dating and your going out.
Motherfucker, how many children have you brought unto this earth?
More than any of you guys put together. I'm referencing the entire podcast here.
Yeah.
And all the guests we've ever had too, I think. Yes, everyone who we've ever had on this podcast.
Yeah, you're calling me out for like, oh, you fucking heteros. Bro. Don't you fucking lecture me, motherfucker.
You're right, I can't lecture you. I was lectured once by an ace roommate I had once, or a housemate that I had once, who, I think she said, and I quote, we LGBT people, we outnumber you fucking breeders like 10-1.
No! I was literally thinking, oh my god, is she gonna call you a breeder? No. Oh man, actually.
And this was before I was even married.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I'd like to see the stats on that. But anyway, I'm just...
We need to rig this thing back around. I want to...
Okay. Here,
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna... Going on to the last of the quote-unquote side characters here. I'm probably going to get some flack on this one personally. So I want you guys to tell me, did you have a problem with Xanthe Wynn's portrayal of Ririka?
No.
Literally not at all.
Not at all.
I honestly, the type of performances, this was probably the one I liked the most.
Really?
There's something about this sort of like airy, I don't know, something about this airy, sleepy girl that's doing her best to try and make friends, but it's just kind of I don't know how to describe it. She's got this very like sleepy air to her.
I'm sorry.
I don't agree.
Okay, here I'm twofold on this because I thought it was not well directed in that I didn't believe any of the lines were actually genuine, but they made me laugh. They really made me laugh, and not in a good way. In like the Room almost kind of delivery.
Wow! I think you're full of shit right now. I don't see it at all.
Yeah, wow. This is the most I have literally ever disagreed with you, man. I do not get what you were talking about, literally at all.
Well, how do I describe this here? Because I'm sure that everyone else listening to this is mad at me too now, because I love Xanthe's performances, and she has the same tenor, the same high voice, soprano, moe voice that we've heard her in a lot of our stuff before. She brings it here, but it's the delivery is when she's saying lines was it here? She talks to Nozomi for the first time and kind of asks her,
She's trying to get her to understand Mizore because she's kind of shooting her down all the time.
Yeah, all the lines in it though. Ririka is she's supposed to be very airy, and I suppose this is kind of similar to how it was in the Japanese. It's very lucid and very loopy and in a way that's really hard to play convincingly. I don't think they were trying to go for melodrama for all of the lines, but it really made me laugh. I
don't even think that she was going for melodrama.
I just thought it was kind of like a
if you're thinking, here's the thing: if she was a more two-faced character, I could see this being a little weird, but it's very clear from what they're going in that she's actually just trying to be genuine and trying to make a connection with somebody who's very awkward and shut into her ways and succeeding.
I mean, the worst thing I could say about it is of all the girls, is the most our typical anime sounding character maybe, but aside from that,
the closest thing to a criticism I could say is having something that airy and high almost seems like it would be a detriment for something like an oboe. But that's more of an anime thing.
No.
I don't.
No, your voice has. Sorry. Your voice has nothing to do with the instrument that you play. Nothing at all. You can have the highest voice possible, and you can still play a trumpet.
I think my brain was just thinking like the lung capacity or something. But no, I guess that was just a bit on my part. A little bit of ignorance there.
I thought that Xanthe's performance sounded pretty relaxed. Okay, this is just kind of an awkward teenager trying to understand why this person refused to talk to her, and I thought Xanthe got that across pretty well.
This is a chick I would want to just hang out with and tuck some blankets with. She just feels cozy.
Sure.
She feels like a cozy bro.
She does, and when it's the more laid back, just hanging out with the bassoons, we wanted to invite you out to come to tea with us. It's okay, that's cute and that's believable in a airy high school girl kind of sense, but it's in the more dramatic parts where she's trying to make friends. Why is our senpai so cold to us? It's those kind of deliveries where know if that really is the direction I would have gone with when I was doing the direction. Like, I would have gone for something maybe in that pitch, but acted in a slightly different way.
I don't agree with you on this one. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's
Yeah, me neither.
I think what I just, not that I need to be on trial here because I totally lost already. Put me in handcuffs and take me away. Is that it reminded me of the way that Moe characters were kind of acted almost 15 years ago. Like, I was there. I was listening to the...
Okay. I mean, I think I get what you are trying to go with there, but like, even then, like, that sort of thing has like long since been perfected, and Danfy has always been good at that sort of thing. So
Sure.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, I had like no real problem with it here.
Like the only thing I'd say that's different compared to a couple other Zampies is this seems like a little more like like I'd say this is more like NyQuil compared to some of them.
Again, the most I could like really maybe criticize is that like it sounds maybe like a little more anime than like maybe needed for something as low key as this. But even then, it's like that's still like the character archetype, and I don't think that Zanfie like didn't get that archetype. So
Yeah.
No.
like. Yeah, I don't really have any problems there.
I also think it's interesting as like one of the new characters in this, and that I at least thought that she was a nice balance or like a nice new addition to the squad.
She does. She's definitely different from all the other characters. They don't focus on all of the characters in the band during the TV show, and they really couldn't flesh them out.
They couldn't flesh all of them.
Episodes.
They basically focused on the ones they really could narrow in on, which I was randomly remembering because I was looking up stuff about Sound Euphonium to remember. You remember that group of like, were they Euphonium or were they? Remember that like kind of chubby girl with like her glasses boyfriend and like
Tuba. They're both
Tuba.
players.
They're both Tuba. They were adorable, by the way. I wanted more of them.
Were. We see them constantly because they're performing in sectionals, but you're right. They don't get a side movie to themselves. They definitely needed one, or at the very least an OVA to themselves.
I could watch to chill with them either way.
Right. Although I do appreciate that you mentioned before that it's nice to have these like side stories that focus on characters we don't normally focus on. I do like that they had the OVA to the first season was about the characters who got cut from the competition group, and we just kind of followed them, Team Monaco, throughout the duration of the first season. Like that's enjoyable. That's what an OVA should be.
Mm-hmm.
Although I suppose now that I've been thrown off of the bus out into Jurassic Park, we should move on to the last characters who I don't have as much to say about Liz and the Bluebird, honestly, because Courtney is good, I'll say that, but it's not a character that, despite being in the name, like doesn't get as fleshed out as much as the high school characters. But that's okay.
They are literal storybook characters. They are simple but effective.
Yeah, literally just like, hey, here's a storybook character. You just kind of need to give that energy across, and Courtney got that energy across.
They're storybooks, but also might have been adapted into like a light novel or something. Because there's like a whole sub-arc of Mizure having to fight the fucking library girl. Which, by the way, we were talking about that. I don't think that's Carrie Kiernan. I'm like 100% that was Cassandra Lee Morris.
Yeah, you're right. I don't think it was Carrie either. I was getting her mixed up with a different character because there's a lot.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think that was Cassandra Lee Morris. I watched the movie like 2 days ago, so my memory.
There's somebody named Mako that is credited to Carrie Kiernan, but I didn't know who Mako was or think that was the library girl.
When I Google search Liz and the Bluebird library girl, I don't get any characters. I just get local libraries that have the movie in stock.
How nice of them.
Indeed.
But yeah.
Courtney's performance is, I guess the question I wanted to lead with between you two is that they had Courtney play both Liz and the character of the Bluebird. Did they sound distinct enough from you two?
Yes.
For you two?
The important thing was to make them sound distinct, and they succeeded.
Is that okay? Yeah, I'm gonna be real. Like until I looked at the credits, I did not know it was the same person. So, that pretty much says everything.
So in that regard, absolutely, it succeeded.
Gotcha. And yeah, it's I don't know why they did that exactly, and I did not check the Japanese credits to see if it was the same where the same
I don't
voice
think.
both characters.
I just checked. I don't think it is.
Okay, so it may have been another instance like the Kumiko thing where it's like, okay, we need to fill these in, and Courtney, you're here. Would you like to voice another character since we got you here for another hour?
So yeah. Wait. Actually, no. I was wrong. It's the same case in Japanese as well.
Okay, so they're trying to replicate the Japanese.
I wanted to correct myself because I thought it was different. No. In Japanese, it is Miyu Honda as both Liz and the Bluebird.
Oh, okay. That's a hard act to follow then. So yeah, so we've established that both Liz and the Bluebirds' performances sound distinct from each other, but did they actually convey the sense of storybook angst that this story needed?
I guess.
Yeah, as far as storybook angst, all I know is that was a plucky, peppy little blue jay, and a very more subdued girl who worked at the bread factory. Huh?
No.
It's a bread shop, not a bread factory. I'm confusing my Kyoanis.
So
yeah, like between the two.
Bread factory, huh?
Sorry.
Bread factory, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I was just gonna say, like, between the two, like, Liz was probably, like, the more dramatic performance, and, like, Courtney got that across pretty well, and, like, I guess the doubts over, like, exactly what she wanted to do with the Bluebird, and if it was, like, really for the best to, like, let her go and, like, come to terms with that, and I thought that Courtney got that across pretty well.
She did.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps that her voice is also distinct from all the other characters in this. Like, we just went through, like, 10 or 12 different female voice actors. Courtney doesn't sound like any of them. Not just in pitch, but I want to say almost even in dialect. I was trying to pin down the way that she, like, pronounced words as Liz and said things, and it sounded, I want to say, like a West Coast accent. Like, if I had to pick a part of the country that I picked that voice from, it sounded like very, west part of the country almost. I'm not sure if that's the accurate way to describe it, but it's the best way I can differentiate it from, like, a Texas accent, or a Midwest accent, or an East Coast accent. That's what it sounds like to my ears.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'd absolutely say Courtney did a delightful job at conveying both Liz and the Bluebird. It was very, very sweet, but also very convincing at making them both sound distinct from one another.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
But I suppose the bread and butter of this whole thing is really going to be...
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, you were going to say?
I was just going to say, there's kind of that more... I feel like when you're working with animals where it's like, you're a wild animal, I have to let you go out into the whole wild world. It looks a lot worse when you're a person and you're like, I love you, therefore I have to kick you out of the house.
Really?
Go pay for your own rent.
Have you not seen the Disney movie The Fox and the Hound
Yeah,
recently?
I have not seen it recently. I'm literally meaning in the fact that it looks like Liz just kicked out her roommate because it's like, I love you, therefore I have to let you go out into the world where there is no roof and there is no fire and all that. Like when it's an animal, because she is technically an animal, it makes more sense. But she's like a girl there, so it's just like, I'm kicking you to the curb.
Andrew, I don't know how to tell you this. I didn't want you to find out this way, but I am kicking you out of the house. Move out, you freeloader. We had a good times, but it's time for you to move on. Fly free, little bird.
Fine. The fucking cooking sucks, anyways. You fucking garbage.
Aww. Oh, you know
Your
what?
taste in cartoons is fucking lame. Damn it. Ugh.
No, I'm sorry, Andrew. Please come back.
Why?
That's a discussion for another time. Parenthood is very difficult, as is these two, the main leads here. Let's talk about Mizori and Nozomi.
Forgot my toothbrush. I might as well stay around for the rest of this.
I was gonna be, well, not critical of Lori, but I do have, like, maybe a minor complaint about that particular performance, because I think acting-wise, she did a pretty good job. She did a good job. I thought she did a good job of getting across, Mizori being kind of very, shy, reserved, not really knowing how to, like, deal with people and being awkward around them. I thought she got that across pretty well, and definitely, like, in regard to her relationship with Nozomi and not wanting to let her go.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, though, I thought the reports were, like, she was maybe, like, a little too quiet, because, like, I'm not gonna lie, there were, like, a few instances where I could, like, barely hear some of her lines, and it threw me off a little bit.
Fair enough. I mean, I feel like they were trying to match the soft-spokenness of the original, and like this character only gets really loud and enunciates when she's confronted on stuff. Like the time she grows a backbone in the story is when she finds out Nozomi is considering applying to a music college, and she's like, "Then I will apply to a music college as well." So, I didn't have any instances of myself where I couldn't understand what she was saying, but I can fully understand that that's a hard kind of performance to pull off convincingly while still maintaining that soft-spokenness and being understood.
Yeah, being quiet as a dude without being completely inaudible is a tricky balance sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I think Lori has some trouble, but I think for the most part she does a nice job succeeding at that balance for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what helps is that she's got the right pitch for this. We've seen soft-spoken characters like this before. Like, even in KyoAni's repertoire, you've got, oh god, what's her name from Haruhi Suzumiya? Yuki. You've got Yuki Nagato from Haruhi, who had a very similar, almost even a similar character design of the soft-spoken bookworm character. And that's a character that had to speak a lot in, like, certain certain monologue scene. Is there an instance in, like, some other performance that you would point to as, like, that's how you do soft-spoken while still being more audible, Jet?
Zenfi, ironically enough. But, like, I mean, well, within the context of this issue. But I'm just saying, like, again, I didn't think the ending was bad by any means. It was just kind of like, there were, like, a couple of instances where, like, I can barely hear some of her lines.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if maybe it was just kind of like a mixing thing, but, like, that did throw me off a little bit.
Oh, that's a good question. Was it in any scene where, like, she was being drowned out by, like, the background music in particular?
Not totally sure. I know it was just kind of like maybe like a couple of scenes, like time where she was just kind of like talking one-on-one with someone else.
Okay.
But, like, yeah.
What about you, Andrew?
I would actually say I kind of was endeared to Lori's soft-spokenness as Mizore, where I think she did a good job sounding like somebody who was unconfident in themselves, but had the ability and potential to reach out and be more assertive and take control of the situation if she really put her mind to it, which honestly I was kind of impressed to see her actively do that in this movie and really take initiative and, like, take a stand, which was nice to see. Because I like Mizore, but she is always a passive character. So seeing her kind of grow out and realize that she shouldn't basically clip her own wings for the sake of staying on the same ground as her best friend when she could fly and soar higher even if that means leaving her behind.
Solo, like she is a
and
baller
choosing not to do
woodwind
that.
player.
It was actually kind of nice to see.
I understand that this whole
and also when it's like, hey,
soundtrack is being
I'm doing none of this
recorded,
despite you. Like she did
that
the
was
whole.
beautiful to listen to.
Oh yeah,
free. That was an amazing oboe solo.
God, that fucking like. The entire thing about the third movement is that both of their parts are solos and they have to be perfectly in sync with each other because it's a metaphor. Like it's not a very subtle metaphor, but it's yep. But no, I think it was absolutely like beautiful playing that she did, and I really like Lori's take when she takes the initiative and starts talking to Ririka and actively does the little hug thing at the end to try and get it all out and say that even with all that said and done, like I still love and cherish you. And it's like, yeah, that's I think for sure she absolutely did a really convincing job as Mizore, and I thought she actually was a pretty outstanding choice, all things considered.
All right. Well, I guess that brings it down to the final question then. Should Nozomi have been let back into the band? Because if you've seen the TV show, the big subplot of season 2 was Nozomi left in her first year. Now it's her second year, and she wants back in, and no one's really letting her do that. So I guess they let her back in for the third and final year.
Yeah. There's that whole...
Yeah, I think I do vaguely remember that plot now.
I do vaguely remember it a little, but it's very much just... I think, yeah, she should have definitely gotten back in, because it's like it's a club and you can do what you gotta do, but it's very much... It's clear she's doing it to kill time and, like, hang with her friends rather than actively putting heart, blood, and sweat and tears like some of her other comrades.
But, yeah. And I thought Stephanie did a good job with that, where, she's out of, like, very casual, very, like, nice and peppy, but at the same time... you can kind of tell she has, like, her own doubts about her life that she's in. And like, despite the, like, persona she's putting on, she doesn't really quite know what she wants to do with herself.
I really liked Stephanie in this in particular. It felt like... I don't know how to put this. I'd say felt particularly like... How do I describe this? Particularly teen peppiness while never trying to break her kayfabe. Like, conceal, don't... Kayfabe.
Is that another gamer term?
Oh my fucking god, you're so old. Kayfabe. I will look up the definition. In professional wrestling terms, the fact or convention of presenting stage performances as genuine or authentic. Basically selling to Mizure and everybody in the concert band club that she is happy, she is content, everything is fine, everything is good.
Now, see, I totally bought the extrovert personality that Stephanie brought to the character. Like, this is a senior who easily makes friends with everyone, makes everyone else feel happy, and seems genuinely pleased with the company that they keep, which is why she reached out to the Mizore in the first year and was kind of like, hey, I see someone who's not so happy. I can go make them happy. And then they became best friends after that. And Stephanie gets that level of enthusiasm and extrovertedness that I feel like it carries the movie, honestly, because Nozomi has by miles the most lines of any character in the movie.
She's got a lot going for her, for sure, and I think definitely Stephanie conveys that level of, like, peppiness and outgoing friendliness while not really ever wanting to break the act and conceal those, like, emotions. Like, cause you can tell she hates those petty emotions where she's like, she's offering to go to music college. I guess I'll go to music college. Or, like, that kind of petty jealousy of actually seeing her friend, who was kind of like her whole world, fly out and see more of the world without her, whether she wants to or not. There's kind of that level of realizing like they're close, but also kind of realizing to break that codependency and be their own people, while also still letting each other know that they love and care for each other, and they will never forget that bond.
But is it actual love, or are they just really good friends?
It's a love hug. Okay. Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry, good thing you mentioned that, because that gets into, like, the thing I remember that I find extremely frustrating about Sound UFO reports, which is that, like, it sucks to say, but it really, really does lean a little too hard to, like, actual Yuri baiting, which is kind of annoying.
Totally.
Like, as soon as they introduced the hug thing, I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, that's how they do it. I'm like, okay.
And admittedly, like, in the 2010s, this sort of thing, I feel like at the time where Sound UFO originally came out, this sort of thing was maybe, like, a little more novel, when it was like, and I guess I could be a little more forgiving of it playing with that, because, I mean, it didn't have, like, maybe as much explicitly queer stuff, like, coming out constantly. So, like, I guess it's kind of more like, okay, if they're gonna, like, let people interpret it that way, or, like, whatever, that's kind of nice, and so even if it is a little annoying, they are, like, committing. But since then we've gotten a lot of stuff that just kind of, like, drops any pretense, and it's just extremely upfront about that sort of thing. So going back to Sound UFO, like, doing the whole baiting thing, it's just kind of like, come on, we've seen better than this.
Yeah, and the character of oh god, what's her name? I will find it here. She's the other main euphonium player in the TV series. She
Asuka?
Asuka, thank you, Asuka.
Man, she doesn't even show up in this movie, man, Asuka's great.
Well, she is, but she plays into what Jet was saying about the whole queer baiting thing, because she constantly, whenever a Kohei wants to talk to her, she's like, are you here to confess your love for me? Do you have questions about love? And it's always, it does carry kind of that sense of she's toying with them. Like, I'm not really expecting you to say that you're in love with me, but I love playing around with it, or I love playing with your hair, or I love anything else that's in that Yuri baiting category.
I wouldn't even have said Asuka. I would have said the whole thing with Kumiko and Reina, but that's...
Frankly, that is like 10 times more annoying.
It is, I think,
because they lead into that, and literally both of them have male love interests.
You're right. There we go. That's what I was gonna say. Is that they get to have their cake and eat it too, because they tease the ship between Kumiko and Reina throughout the whole show, but then at the same time, Kumiko's got her boner boyfriend, and Reina spends the whole show trying to confess to their adult teacher, which she technically does, and he totally misinterprets it, and it's so sad to watch.
Rip.
And a little funny at the same time.
But yeah, it's like, I get the feeling like I'm not always, I don't like harping on KyoAni stuff about it in particular, but I think at least, outside of just the fact that it's called the Love You Hug, which I think is, that's the part I don't care about. I'm like,
yeah.
I think just a genuine, like, just be real with each other and, like, let it out and say what you really think about each other and, like, what you mean to me. I thought that scene was actually extremely touching. And I like the fact that, like, you see... Okay, I say this no bullshit or not to be mean to any of the dub actors. The best acting in this show is the character acting.
Yeah, that's where all the attention is, definitely.
Like I love, like, even during that hug scene where it's letting it all out, like, you literally see Mizure physically trying to be vulnerable and opening up, as you see Nozomi kind of, like, has her hands behind her back, tucked away, not yet ready to, like, be vulnerable and let it out before finally, like, getting broken down by all the nice things that her friend is pouring her heart out to finally giving in and like hugging her. I love the fucking beginning of the movie where they show that they are out of sync, as Mizure is a lot more timid and like kind of faltering behind, and you see Nozomi walking with the most animated rendition of Pep in Your Step I have ever seen in anything. Like, I've never seen... I've always heard the phrase pep in your step, but I'm like, this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like.
Yeah,
and
have you ever seen someone twirl as they open a door before? Have you ever seen that before?
Fucking Kyoto animation, baby! Fucking
go.
Amazing. And then the end of the movie, where you see them. They don't say it. You see them in sync. In sync with one another. They are no longer disjointed, they are jointed, and I'm like, it's good shit.
Have to put the word disjoint right there on the screen as the credits roll.
And they cross out the dis.
Yep.
And then
yep.
it's joint. I'm like, okay, that's good. That's good. So
that is
so
not
yes.
Subtext.
So I think yes,
text.
I agree with the frustration of the fucking Yuri bait in it. I'm not going to play the whole are they an item or not. It's just like,
yeah.
I just love that. I did like that scene where it's like Mizore is trying to be the more open and receptive one and has been spending the entire movie trying to get some sugar before getting that cup of sugar. It's a very satisfying movie. Satisfying.
Even though this is the Dub Talk podcast, I guess I wanted to close off this overall discussion with the question to both of you guys. Do you feel like you could watch the movie with no dialogue, no subtitles turned on, and just based on the animation still get most of what happens in the movie?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I would argue that like the soundtrack and the aesthetic of this movie does a lot for it.
Oh, definitely the music, yeah.
Here's the thing: the Sound Euphonium also lives on its music, which I want to give a shout out to. Okay, I'm gonna write it's Kensuke Ushio who does the OST of this outside of just the band stuff.
Okay.
Wanted to make sure I got his name 100% right.
Sure.
Kensuke Ushio, yes. He's done the music for a bunch of things. He did the music for Devilman Crybaby, and he's going to be doing the music for Chainsaw Man. Among many other things. His music was absolutely spectacular and like one of the highlights of this film alongside it.
But, not even just the in-concert performance or the in-band performances, but the background music and the everything else that
the scene transitions and all that. It's something else.
Yeah, it is.
Like this is a gorgeous movie, and yeah,
that goes without saying. I mean, no, it doesn't go without saying. It should be repeated several times because if you're going to watch this movie, and you can watch it, we'll get to that in a minute. You should watch it for nothing else than just to see the absolutely drop-dead gorgeous animation.
But yes, to talk about literally anything else, to talk about what we are talking about here, I do think Lori and Stephanie did a spectacular job stealing the show as both Mizure and Nozomi, yes. They did a fantastic job conveying both emotions, characters, and growths and development. I was actually pretty impressed with the two of them in particular. They did a great job.
Similar thoughts, Jet?
Yeah, I like both performances a lot.
And I'm going to have to agree with that too. I didn't have really an issue with the understanding on the Lori part, but I'm pretty sure that if I was like paying any less attention, because I was very tuned into the watch on this, I probably would have missed some lines as well. So I don't.
I mean, I'll be honest in admitting I didn't watch the movie under like the exact best circumstances. Because I was like watching it like. We were originally going to record this on Friday, and then like things happened, so like I watched it the day I thought we were going to record it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little less fresh.
Okay, Andrew did the same thing.
So there was that, and then like when I watched it on Amazon, I had to watch it like with ads.
Oh.
So I did. So there were. Yeah, so admittedly there were a couple of points where I like stepped away for a few minutes, like during ad breaks. So I
Ah.
maybe like didn't get like the full retention I probably should have for like every
Wait,
scene.
Amazon or Tubi?
Amazon.
Okay. Alright, yeah. Okay. I get you. So yeah. This is a fucking pretty movie, guys.
Yeah, it's a very pretty movie.
Yeah, it's pretty, and this is, I suppose we've covered all the characters and spent most of this time talking about the highs and lows of it. So let's move on to the final thoughts of this because honestly, if we haven't sold you on this movie by now, I don't know what else will. So let me pass it over to Andrew. I want you to tell me your undiluted final reactions to Liz and the Bluebirds English dub.
I would say low key, but executed in a way that gets the job done good. I would definitely say I think it's not something that the dub is not something I think that sets the world on fire, but I think for the strange and curious circumstances of the Sound Euphonium's dub or lack thereof, and then having to cast their own dub, they got a solid cast. They got a solid crew, and I think they did a good job conveying these characters in trying to understand who they are, the life they live, and like whether they are better together or better apart. I think they did a good job doing this little low-key story and really selling me on it. I think they did a good job.
That's all well and good, because yeah, the existence of this in the canon of the franchise, I guess whether or not you're gonna get as much out of this as a TV show, I guess depends on how invested you are with the characters. But even without that, like uncoupled from the main series, I feel like this could be enjoyed by itself, like as a solo movie.
There is maybe one plot element that needs a little more context, which is the whole Nozomi left in first year. But even that is kind of says it all in and of itself.
Yeah, I agree.
I think they did a really solid job making this at least standalone enough to at least enjoy or vibe with. I'd say this movie is atmosphere, it is presentation, and it is sound.
All right. So, Jet, some more thoughts? Different? What you got?
Yeah, this was a pretty nice film. Definitely bigger emphasis on like visual storytelling over like voice acting, but like the visual storytelling was very good, so can't complain there. But it is admittedly a pretty simple story, but it is told. But it is told pretty effectively, and I did think that I thought it was pretty stunning. So on the whole, I thought it was a pretty enjoyable film.
I'm glad to hear that. And I presume that you will be coming back for season 3 when that finally drops in a year and a half from now.
God, all right, let's. Do you think they're going to dub the first 2 seasons before we get a season 3 dub?
What I think is going to happen, they're going to dub season 3 and then go back to dub seasons 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Shortly afterwards.
God, I hope. I would prefer that they dub the first 2, having already secured the license for 3, and because here's the thing,
who's the they in this scenario?
Whoever picks it up.
Almost certainly Crunchyroll.
I'm at least assuming Crunchyroll, which I'm not even playing that game of predicting how that dub's going to work. Look, it's been almost 7 years since the original Sound Euphonium license. Sound Euphonium Season 1. Licenses tend to lap in 7 years, okay?
I don't know if that's a hard and fast rule, but
it's not a hard and fast rule. But I'm going to point out that, say, one of the first things that Pony Canyon USA got, Yuki Yuna is a Hero. All 3 seasons are now licensed by Sentai Filmworks.
There you go.
And that premiered around the time that Pony Canyon stepped on the scene 7 years ago. So maybe this conversation will have a proper conclusion and the full show will get dubbed in the future.
I certainly hope so. I have no qualms with speculating on that. And I do think it's a fair assumption that there will eventually be a studio, be it Crunchyroll, maybe they'll outsource it to NYAV since they already dubbed these movies, to do the full series.
Okay, no. They dubbed this movie. The other movie was dubbed in LA by a different studio and director.
You're right. I'm sorry. You're right. It's late at night. There's no reason why any one of those two studios couldn't be commissioned by Crunchyroll to do the full series. But right now, this is what we've got to work with. And yeah, for the snippet of A World into an English-dubbed Sound Euphonium franchise, Liz and the Bluebird is a good... I almost say it's like a teaser. You know, it's a good sampler. It's like, I'm going to give you a little taste of what it would be like here, and so that you'll be enticed to buy the whole thing. You know, we're going to let you test drive this car so that you'll be inclined to spend money on the whole thing. I don't think that was their intention. It wasn't like they said, let's do this, and then we'll entice someone else to dub the whole thing. But it's definitely what the fans wanted, because there's a big outcry for all of Sound Euphonium to get an English dub. For good reason. It's a very good dub. I marathoned the whole 2 seasons of it within the last month in preparation for this podcast, and in doing so, added a new favorite to the list. This dub has its qualms that I have brought up, especially with certain characters' direction, which I seem to be on an island of one on that regards. But that's okay, because you know what? Not everybody has to be right all the time. Just like Mizore doesn't have to be an extrovert all the time, and Nozomi doesn't have to go to the same school that Mizori goes to. So, I think we covered everything we wanted to on this. I recommend this movie. I recommend giving it a listen to in dub. I even recommend giving it a listen to with just music and sound effects, if you can find that track anywhere. But yeah, overall,
so if you manage to be an average person that just has the M&E track to Liz and the Bluebird on hand, which you probably aren't. You're probably Stephanie Shea if you have the M&E track.
Probably. Which I don't know when the last time I saw it. The last time I saw a release that did that released it with just M&E tracks, that wasn't like an old school release from Discotheque, was probably the original release of Dot Hack Sign. The last time I remember that happening.
All right.
So, anyways, so you've listened to us talk about Liz and the Bluebird, and you may be wondering, where can I check this movie out? And the answer is pretty much everywhere. Through 11 Arts, who distributed this, you can get it on Blu-ray, readily available at your favorite anime distributors. You can watch it on Amazon. You can watch it on Tubby TV. You can watch it on the Roku channel. Did you say
Tubby TV?
It's pronounced Tubi, isn't it?
It's pronounced Tubi.
But it's spelled like tuba, so it must be 2B, right?
You didn't say 2B, you said Tubby. Like Tubby Custard, like you're a fucking...
What? What's Tubby Custard?
Oh my god, are you fucking kidding me?
I'm from the Midwest. If that's a regional thing from the East
That's
Coast...
That's not a regional thing! That's from a fucking kid's show! That's the fucking thing with the weird creatures that have TVs in their bellies, and the baby's a son. Why am I...
Teletubbies? Oh.
Yes! Tubby Custards is a thing from Teletubbies!
Okay, Mr.
That's what
Andrew,
they eat!
That was after my time, okay? When that show came out, that was...
No, I'm after your time!
Yes, you are. You are after my time.
Shut the fuck up!
Dude, you're just too young. Get back in the crib. No,
how is it before your time and I'm after your time and you're sitting here like, what the fuck's that? Fuck
Time
you.
Lord. Just non-linear. Anyway, so yeah, listen to Bluebird. You can watch it in multiple different areas. And as Jet pointed out, you can watch it at no charge, but it will probably make you watch ads with it, which I also had a similar experience when I was watching it. I got ads for, like, Jack Daniels, like, really loud commercials in the middle of this soft and delicate high school melodrama. So that kind of killed the mood a little bit. So I personally would more recommend getting it on home video.
That was how I watched it, and it was a good time.
Indeed. You avoid the commercials, and it's also, like we were saying, pretty inexpensive right now. So that's where you can watch that. If you're curious about the TV show itself, Sound Euphonium, the TV show, that is all streaming in sub only, unfortunately, over on Crunchyroll. So I would recommend watching the series before watching the movie, but you know what? You cats do what you want. You can watch it out.
You could watch it without.
You could, but I think I got more enjoyment out of the movie having watched the series first. Also, because the series itself is actually just really good in general.
That's fair.
That's why I recommend that. But that's, let's see here. Now, if you're interested in watching more of the Dub Talk podcast, which is where you are right now, congratulations! You have found the source. You can watch us on YouTube. Maybe you're watching us at youtube.com/dubtalkpodcast. Maybe you are listening to us on the audio-only feed, such as Podbean. What other ones are there, Andrew? I forgot to write them down.
Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Thank you very much. Yes, all of the free-to-play audio-only sources out there we post our episodes for. And new episodes every Friday of the week. Thank you for joining us. And let's say that you want to go one step further and you like what we're doing and want to be part of the Patreon group. Well, that is what this section is for, is to commemorate the fine folks on our Patreon who donate a little bit of money, help make special episodes like this possible, really make this one possible, because like we said at the beginning, this would not be possible without Julia W., who won the Dub Talk Patreon raffle for this month. So that is why she got to pick what we covered. Julia, I hope that we did you and this particular movie justice by covering it. Or maybe you really didn't like the movie and you wanted us to bash it, in which case we are also very sorry we did not do that. But we want to give a shout out to our $5 patrons. Let's give a big shout out to Michelle Travis, Victor Maybaroda, Nico Robin, but with yowie hands, and Megan's mom and dad. I've heard they're very good people and have very good children. And let's also give a huge shout out to the $10 patrons. Ones of the best, and donate to get the episodes a bit early. They get to listen to episodes online days before they go up, get special Patreon clips, and get to be part of the raffles for new episodes that we will cover because you guys requested it. Those $10 patrons are Anthony Brown, Carly Lesticow, Crimson Echidna, Jacob Wilson, Jared Hawkins, Marissa Lenti, Otaku Anthony, and the winner for this month, like we said, Julia W. You guys are amazing, and again, we could not do this without your amazing support.
Thank you for supporting our concert band, so we can do more concerts in our club, and we don't have to do car washes and bake sales. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for helping us afford the rights so we can play that one song from Kakashigoto.
I love how you fucking pointed out the fucking ED that they used for Kakashigoto. I was like, oh my god, that's the same fucking song. Wow. Would never have known that.
Well, I wouldn't have seen the show if you hadn't have steered me towards it, so I have to thank you right back.
Touche.
So, Andrew, what are you doing when you're not... what did we say before? Juggling a life between cartoons, video games, and having a life.
Closest to life is probably petting the cat and hanging out with Steph. But hi, my name is Andrew, aka Classy Spartan. You can find me over on Twitter at MangaMan9000. If you'd like to hear more of what I do outside of Dub Talk, you can find me over at Surreal Resolutions Anime Podcast ONA, where we talk about the latest in anime news and developments alongside my buddy here, Jet.
Aside from here, you can also find me on the Twitters and my Digger, where we'll usually be talking about anime, cartoons, movie news, or like whatever's going on. And then, I'm also on Podcast ONA, where we will spend a lot of time talking about anime news and stuff.
Every week is the biggest week of news ever because the landscape is changing every goddamn day.
Well, that's good because that means that it's never boring.
Sometimes it could be a little more boring. Just saying.
We could afford to go back to having slow news days, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And
Anyways,
yeah, and my name is Noah Clue. You can follow me on Twitter at Noah Clue. That's a section where, again, if you like pictures of cute kids and cute puppy dogs, I've got one of both. I've got actually a couple of both of those. Or discussions about animation from around the world. It's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow in the world of animation, and I'm glad that we get to cover movies like this because I'm part of that circle where people will lament that they don't do hand-drawn movies anymore because some people only pay attention to what the Walt Disney Studios putting out. So I'm really glad that I get to point to this. Like, I get to point to this and say, this right here, this is being made. Liz and the Bluebird is one of hundreds of animated movies that you people don't watch. Is made with your very own hands. Go check that out, people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think let's wrap up this. We have wrapped up. Everyone, put your instruments back, clean them out, get rid of the spit in the spit tubes, disassemble the woodwind instruments, and let's all what do we do? Let's all go out for ice cream, shall we?
Sure. Let's go out for ice cream. Good night, everybody. Otaku on, and Noah Sensei, oh god, that's all the spit, don't knock it over!
Aloha, and keep those concert bands going, people.
Oh god, it's everywhere!